thinking back to yesterday for a minute, let me scooch this up. Again, make sure you're labeling your homework in here because it makes it a lot easier for you to know, what homework checks this going with. So we're starting a new one today, actually. So this is going to be our first. Yes, ma'am. Okay. So what we're going to do is we are going to start by going over what we did yesterday, which is going to be, shh. I shouldn't be hearing voices but mine. I know that sounds kind of pompous, but it's for, no, I'm not, I definitely am not hearing things. My hearing is not one thing that's going away. I'm not that old yet. So what we're going to do here is just a reminder of what we were doing yesterday. When you have consecutive integers, like 3 and 4 and 5, where you're just counting with numbers, if I need to put those into an equation so I can find some values, I just start with x, and I go up 1 each time. So I add 1, I add 2, I add 3, however many I need to do. But if it's consecutive, odd, or even, like 5, 7, 9, or if it was even, like 6 and 8 and 10, I'm not just jumping by one number every time. Like to get from 5 to 7, I add 2. Or to get from 6 to 8, I add 2. Or to get from 5 to 9, I add 4. 6 to 10, I add 4. I'm counting by 2s. So depending on the language, if it just says consecutive, I keep adding 1. If the word odd or even comes in, I keep adding 2, but that's how I'm going to make my equation. So for instance, and we're just going to do a few of these just to kind of get back into the swing of things. If it says find 3 consecutive integers, okay, so that's like what we got working up here, whose sum plus, add them up, is 63. So if I need 3 of them, my first one would be x. Then my next one would be x plus 1. And I'll change colors to kind of make that a little clearer. And then my last one would be x plus 2, because this is my first one. Okay, that's my... Okay, let me put it to you this way. If I asked you to come up with 3 consecutive numbers, we're just counting. So like if I said start at 3 and start counting to go 3, 4, 5, 6, and so on. Those are called consecutive integers because they're right in a row. Well, I want to find 3 of them that add up to 63, but I don't want to sit here and just guess and check and just start throwing random numbers in. So here's what I do. My first number that I'm going to use is x because I don't know where to start. But once you start at that number, so if I told you the first number was 5, I'd say, well, what's the next number when you're counting? Well, it's 6. Well, that'd be 5 plus 1. It'd be that whatever the first number is. I don't know the first number. That's my whole thing. I've got to know whatever my first number is. So like if it was 3, let's say that was my x. I don't know for sure. That's the thing with algebra. There's some abstractness to this. But if I called this x plus 1, because this is 3, 3 plus 1 is 4. Or if my x is 3, 3 plus 2 is 5. It will be when we get there. But again, you've got to give yourself, I mean, if you want, you've got a choice. I mean, if you want to look at this after 1 and say, don't get it, screw it, yeah, I guess you could. But I wouldn't. Because I think once you see a few of these...
Okay, but hold on.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so, yeah, we'll use this for a math teacher, but where else are we going to use 3 x's in your number?
Okay, and I'll keep saying, in math class, my idea is math way off to the side, like number 3 or 4 priority. Number 1 is to get some of you, when you don't like doing something, to actually learn in life. Sometimes you got to fight through those. There's things in my job I don't like. I got to fight through them. So that's 1. 2, some of you, the thought processes that you use, it's, well, if I don't need to use it right now, screw it. I don't need to think about it. And then you get into a situation later where you do, and it's like, oops, man, maybe, I don't know. Now, I'm not saying this is going to be one of them, but I'm saying the idea of getting some of you to think or think outside the box is something that's going to be powerful in different ways. Because a lot of the people in life that make the most money are the ones that can think differently than everybody else does. So trying to fight through this and say, okay, I'm not going to let this beat me and just say screw it and fail a quiz because of it. I'm going to find a way to make this work. And I'll try to find ways as we're going to make it make more sense. But again, keep with me. I'm not going to give up on you. Just don't give up on me with this. We'll keep finding a way to get there. But again, that's our main focus here. Now, back to this one for just a second. So consecutive. And again, there's a pattern to this. When it says consecutive, I always start with x, no matter what. Whether it says even, odd, whatever it says. I always start with x, and then I just keep adding 1 to it. So if I start with x, x plus 1 would come next. And then if I got plus 1, plus 2 would come next. And since I need 3 of them, and that's what my colors are showing here, I've got 3 different values. And here's where it'll start to make a little bit of sense. If I put my like terms together, so I got 1, 2, 3 x's, and I add my numbers that are there, so my 1 and my 2, which is 3. Now it's something that I'm used to working on more, because we've been doing 2-step equations probably since about the 3rd day of school. So what's my first step to work on getting my x by itself? Yeah, subtract the 3. And then that last step, just like we've been doing since then, to undo multiply, because again, opposites are how we undo it, would be to divide by 3. And I get this value, x is 20. Now that's most of what I need for my answer. Because remember, that's my x. So if 20 is my x, to get my next number, I add 1 to it, which would be 21. To get my next number, I add 2 to that. And if I look at this, is 20 plus 21 plus 22 equal my sum that I'm looking for, my 63?
Why can't we just guess the number?
I suppose you could, but what I'll tell you is sometimes that can take quite a long time. And the other part's going to be, like when we do this on a quiz, most of these will be a 2-point question. One will be, can you set up the equation? And one will be, can you get the answer? So if you want to play the guess, you'll get one of the points. But one of the ideas is getting used to finding out.
So you would use these right here?
Yeah.
Those every time?
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I'm trying to get across here. The catch is going to be looking to see when there's key words. Like here it says 3 consecutive odd integers. Okay, if it says odd, I'm going to use these. So I'm like, okay, the first one there is x. And it says 3, so let's see here. So then I'm going to use the next one, which says x plus 2.
No, up there it says it's a negative.
That should be like a little arrow here. That should not be negative x, but I'm glad you said that, because we can make sure that's not what we're thinking. And then the third one is x plus 4. And if I had a fourth one, it'd be x plus 6. I'm just going to keep adding 2 each time. You always start with x, no matter what. And the only difference is going to be, if it just says consecutive, I just keep going up by 1. If it says odd or even, I just keep going up by 2 each time is all I'm looking for here. And then we're always going to equal them to whatever they say the is part is. So you're like, so the only difference between 1 and 2 is now it's plus 2 and plus 4 instead of those. Everything else is the same, and that's true. So I'll put my x's together again, put my numbers together, and I'm going to go ahead and solve this. So again, I got to get my x by itself. Bless you. And once I get that x by itself, let me try something here to see if this helps kind of make a little more sense of it instead of just writing all the numbers down. When I'm looking for these, and I'm just going to rewrite what I did up here, I need 3 numbers. I need x. When I get done, I need what x plus 2 is. And I need to know what x plus 4 is. And I don't know that at the start. But now that I know what x is, that tells me the first number of my 3. So then I move down and I say, okay, my next number in my list is going to be whatever x is, plus 2, which would be 19 plus 2. which is 21. And then my last number is that x value plus 4. And those are my three numbers, because if I add those up, 19 plus 21 is 40, plus 23 is 63. It's just getting used to the pattern that's involved with this and thinking about it like I would if I were just plugging numbers in, like some of you had said, you know, is a possibility with these. All right, so I got one more I want to do. I want to find, there's the one I want. Number 6. Let me move down a little bit. So I wanted to make sure we got an even in here. Okay, find 2 consecutive even integers whose sum is 114. So I look back up at the top for a minute. Even is the x plus 2 go on that way type. So when I look at this one, I say, okay, my first one's always x. And when I look at the odd or even one, the next one is x plus 2. Now I don't need to keep going this time because I only want 2 numbers. So then I stop and I set it equal to whatever the number on the end is. And once I've done that, I say, okay, I got x and x, that's 2x, okay. I'm going to go ahead and just like we've been doing, I'm going to isolate my x's by doing the opposite or by undoing plus 2. So I'm going to minus 2. And then I do my last step because, again, once I figure out what x is, I've figured out my first answer. Because, again, 2 consecutive even integers. The first one's going to be x. The second one's going to be x plus 2, just like I wrote in my original equation. Well, I know what x is. Okay, x is 56. That's my first one. And then to get the other answer, I just add 2 to it. 56 plus 2 is 58, and those two add up to 114, and they're both even. That's your biggest thing with these. You've got to give yourself an opportunity to be able to just work the pattern and have your answers come up that way. Don't cut yourself short. Let's see. I'm thinking one more might be appropriate here. Which one should we do? You tell me.
Whichever one the hardest. Right?
Whichever one's the hardest. Well, I see a lot of them that say 3 consecutive or 3 odd or 3 even, so they're all the same to me. Let's see. Let's look at 4. 2 consecutive integers whose sum is 145. Okay, 2 consecutive. I don't see the word odd or even anywhere. So if I don't see the word odd or even, I'm going to use this first list. I'm going to use x, and I'm going to use x plus 1. Okay, so I got x. Okay, and I've got x plus 1. So there'd be my 2. Equals 145. Okay, let's see what's going on here. So 2x plus 1 equals 145. Let me cut that off here. And again, just keep telling yourself, I'm just getting myself into a good habit, just doing my job just like I will be wherever my work happens to be down the road, or for some of you, maybe even right now. And that will get me good things. So let's see. X is 72. I'm like, okay, I got my x. So I got this. But I still need my x plus 1, because that'll get me my other number. So I plug in the 72 where the x is. (72 plus 73 is 145, and they're consecutive numbers. I'm good. Again, don't cut yourself short on this stuff. Use the ones that we do to try and do something. And that's one of some of you's biggest catch here is if it doesn't go perfect snap right away, you don't want to do it. Well, try doing it using these, and then if we've got to tweak something, I can help you tweak it. But if I can't work with a blank slate, I got to have something to work with here a little bit. So the rest of them, so we almost did half of them, The rest of them are going to be yours to kind of work on here. And again, I'm going to keep mixing back stuff we have done before to try and make sure we don't forget, but also we get a second chance to be good at it. So I'm going to put that one to the side for right now. This last one, because a lot of you have talked to me, you don't like fractions. Okay, well, we're going to take that head on. So our biggest thing here is we want to get rid of the fraction stuff. Well, fractions, actually, fractions are really just the same thing as dividing something. Okay, a fraction's division. Well, how do we undo division? We undo it by multiplying, okay? So we're going to undo by multiplying. Anytime I see a fraction, okay, I'm going to undo it with that. But there's a couple of things I have to watch for, and I'm going to help you with that. So like here, and again, the evens will be the homework, so I'm going to do some odds, but I'll also do a couple evens too to help you out. So like if I'm doing number 1, I see divide by 9. To undo that, I have to do the opposite, and I have to be fair to both sides of the equation. So I'm going to times by 9, but here's the catch. That 9, its only job on the fraction side is to eliminate the fraction part. Don't distribute it. But the other side, I do have to multiply it. So negative 6 times 9 is negative 54. And now, again, once I get rid of the fraction, once I get rid of the part that kind of spooks me out, then I just have one step left. What do I have to do to get my x alone? How do I undo the minus 15? Add it. And that's all I'm up to with these. Now, will they always just be one step? No. For instance, let's drop down to number 4. Yes, I'm even going to do a homework question. Because these rows kind of go in spurts. So I get down to 4 and I say, okay, I still see a fraction. I still want to undo it. So I'm going to multiply by whatever number's down on the bottom in the denominator. Okay, so those guys wipe out. Again, that's its only job on the left side, but I do have to multiply over here. So then I'm like, okay, now what? Well, I want to work on getting this 2x term alone. I have a positive 4 there. How do I undo a positive or a plus 4? Minus. If nothing else, we are going to be equation experts by the time our time is done. And then this is the other one I tend to see people getting stuck on a little. That's not minus 2. Okay, I'm multiplying x by negative 2. So what's the opposite or undoing of multiply? Divide. Okay. And if you need to go to a calculator for this, shoot, do it. Don't sit there and try to just say, I don't know, I'll just throw some number on here. Because that's the way I end up losing points on things. Shoot, I don't want to lose any points. If I got the technology to help me, let's use it. Now again, there can be some little twists and turns to things. Like let's say we run into something like, okay, let me move down a little bit. I'm kind of on a roll here going down the edge. I'm going to keep going down the edge for a minute. All right, let me get down to 7 here. Now here's a first. This one, we got a fraction again. We don't like the fraction. So we're going to multiply both sides again by the number down below. That negative 2 is still there. It still goes with my x. 14 times 7 is 98. And again, it's similar to what we just did in 4. I'm multiplying it. The plus or minus, notice, isn't between the 2 and the x. So that means we're multiplying, and we undo that by dividing. And I'm ready to go. Now, there's one exception to the rule on getting rid of the fraction first. And we're going to do that in number 11. And it kind of gets done all the way across the bottom here. So we're going to look at a couple of these. If there's a plus or minus on the same side as your x term, where the fraction is, I can't get rid of the fraction first here. I got to get rid of this plus 3. The x term's got to be alone before I can get rid of that. So I'm going to get rid of that plus 3 first. I'm going to undo it. I'm going to minus 3. Now that my x term's alone, now I can deal with the fraction. Now I can say, okay, I don't like that 3 there. I'm going to times it to get rid of it. Because whatever's in the bottom, I can get rid of that by timesing both sides by that. And once I get there, I can eliminate that 2, okay, and get to my answer. But like I said, anytime there's something that's being added or subtracted to your fraction, that's got to go away first. If it doesn't, that's going to mess me up. So like if I get to 13, it's the same idea. I want to get this by itself first. I always want to have that term that has my variable alone. So whatever's being done to it, it's being plussed by 28. I got to minus that sucker out of there. And once I get that fraction part by itself, oh, it's time to attack that denominator. I'm sorry my 7 got a little squished in there. But I still can get the job done and get that wiped out. Don't lose the negative on your 4. It's the details in life that kind of separate us from other people. If we pay attention to detail, it makes everything so much better. Let's see here. I don't think I can do 224 divided by 4 in my head this morning. Sometimes when I'm sharp I can. Today, not quite so much. Okay, negative 56. And if you can solve equations, you are an algebra expert. And then I will help. I'm looking to see what I got coming here still. Okay. Let me help here get going on these. At least let me help you get them set up. So on 15 and 16, okay. The sum. What's sum mean? Add. We've been doing a ton of sums lately. I hope we know that. The sum of 3/5 x and 2 is the same as, otherwise known as equals, 8. And then I'd solve that. So that's another thing I want to help you get used to. If you understand the language, it's like, you know, knowing English. You go to a foreign land, you got to learn their language. Okay. 16, and then we'll actually solve here. What's quotient mean?
That's mine.
Close. Divide, nice. All right. So the quotient, divide, you're like the quotient of the difference. What? Of x and 6. Okay, the difference of x and 6. So yeah, this is kind of tricky to read. The quotient of the difference of x and 6 and 2. Okay. That one is definitely a little complex. Is equal to 5. So let's see. Thank you. So if I wanted to solve number 16, what would I need to do first? Yeah, we need to get rid of that 2. Because my fraction's isolated. Get that out of there. Got the x minus 6 left. We multiply our 5 by 2. And what's that last step going to be? How do I undo minus 6? Plus 6. And for some of you that get stuck with that sometimes, you may have to, I don't know if you want to do it out loud, but just keep asking yourself, how do I undo? Because sometimes it's just that little prompt that some of you need to be able to get there. And that's all we need. Now, let's see if there's anything funky on the back. I don't think we got funky stuff on the back. More of the same types of equations. Okay, funky stuff at the bottom. You're like, what's going on here? This is me getting you ready for something down the road and getting you thinking with those multiplication and addition facts. Here's how these work. If you haven't seen them before, these are called diamonds. They help us when we get to something called factoring in the next unit. And here's what I'm going to do. I need to find two numbers that multiply to get the number on the top and add to get the number on the bottom. And it'll be the same two numbers. So here's what I may have to do. If my multiplication facts aren't my strong point, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the calculator and I'm going to let it help me figure this out. And here's how. I'm going to start making myself a little chart here. I guess I'll do it this direction. On numbers that multiply to 30. Well, I always know that a number in itself multiplies to 30. That makes sense. Okay? I was going to say ones that we know we'll do right away. Anybody know any other numbers that multiply to 30? 5 and 6. Add 15 times 2. Okay. So I get all these numbers and I go, oh my gosh, check all this out. Now, which pair of numbers there adds up to 13? 3 and 10. Okay, so I put a 3 and a 10, and I'm like, okay, 3 times 10 is 30, but wait a minute. 3 plus 10 isn't negative 13. When I'm multiplying numbers, what's another way I can get a positive? They can both be negative, because negative times negative is positive, and negative 3 minus 10 is negative 13. Awesome. So all we're doing on these is we're working on the multiply part, okay? Two numbers that multiply to negative 14, or just 14 even. Two numbers that multiply to 14. What could it be? What could it be? 2 and 7. Okay, let's see. Now I might be able to make this work. Let's check this out. It needs to multiply to a negative, which means how many of these numbers need to be negative? One of them. So which one can I put the negative on and then add them and still get positive 5?
7, 2. 2.
Oh, gee, I better have a pencil ready for this. Okay, let's think about this for a minute. If I put it on the 7, if I owe somebody, if I have $2 and I spend 7, am I going to be 5 ahead? No, I think I'm going to be 5 behind. Let's try it the other way around. If I have $7 and I spend 2, do I still have 5? Yeah. So I got to go with the positive 7 and the negative 2 on that one. And the last thing, like, dang, there's a lot of stuff going on here. We've done a lot of stuff. 37, again, distributive property. All this stuff I'm going to keep talking about because it all keeps coming back, and I want to give us opportunities to get better. Multiply the numbers. 12x. 4 times 1 is 4, but don't lose the minus that's there. That's the detail stuff we talk about. 6 times 2 is positive 12. 6 times 5 is 30. And again, if you forget one when you're multiplying, let the calculator help you. There's no shame in that. What can I put together that's alike once I distribute? Yeah. 24x. Oh, now the challenge. I got 30 bucks, I spend 4. 26. Now, remember, on this sheet, you do not have to do them all. Here, you know what I'll do? I'll tell you what I'll do. Let me go back to the front here for a minute. You know how it says evens are homework? And that's what we're going to do? So like 2, 4, 6, 8, and so on. You're so good at this. And I like to give opportunities. Okay, so the evens are the homework, but if you get on a roll and you do some of the odds too, we can get you an assignment's worth of extra credit out of this deal. Because equations are kind of important in here. So, now again, these will be for the next homework check. Tomorrow is our next one, and I'm going to get those sheets posted up here in a second so you can see them in case you need to say, wait a minute, I need to go find that one.
How many papers was in